Shantanu tracked down a woman named Ganga who lived among the sages on the riverbanks. 8 years after the marriage, the 8th son survived. Parashuram conducted a final stress test on his student.
Sunrise paints the highest peak, a whispered promise that we keep.
The most devastating war in ancient history began with one man's fixation on his genetic legacy. The Kurukshetra War lasted 18 days, leaving the subcontinent in ruins. It was the final, violent expression of a conflict brewing for generations. Centuries before the first arrow was fired at Kurukshetra, the capital of Hastinapur was a site of excavated ruins and mud-brick foundations. It was a war-torn remnant of a kingdom that had lost its power and prestige. King Shantanu inherited this fractured state. As a direct descendant of the Sun dynasty, he was expected to restore the glory of his ancestors, a task that felt impossible given the current state of his borders. He was constantly chasing the ghost of King Bharat, the mythical boy who reportedly counted the teeth of lions. Bharat had unified the entire landmass into a single empire, Bharatvarsha. Shantanu lived in the shadow of this mythic history. He spent his entire reign attempting to bridge the gap between his current reality and the godlike status of his lineage. Shantanu carried the physical evidence of his burden, 3 distinct lines on his neck. These were seen as symbols of the Tridev, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, suggesting he was born with a divine mandate to lead. He utilized this divinity to rally his people. These were his initial borders in the Saptasindhu region. Shantanu aggressively pushed these boundaries outward, reclaiming the 7 rivers and forcing local rulers to recognize him as emperor. Even with the title of emperor, Shantanu faced a logistical dead end. He had consolidated the river basins, but the total unification of Bharatvarsha was a project that required more time than a single human life allowed. He concluded that his own mortality was the absolute bottleneck. To ensure the completion of his ancestors' empire, he needed an heir with a lifespan and power that transcended human limits. He pivoted from conventional military expansion to a biological strategy. Shantanu decided to secure a divine bloodline to produce a son who could finish what he started. Shantanu tracked down a woman named Ganga who lived among the sages on the riverbanks. The local rumors suggested she was a celestial being, or perhaps a physical manifestation of the river itself. A specific prophecy made her the perfect target for Shantanu's plan. Ganga was destined to bear a son who would be an invincible warrior. The sages brokered the marriage with a transactional requirement. Ganga would only remain with the king until her child reached self-sufficiency. At that point, she would leave the palace and return to the ashram forever. During these years, rumors spread through the capital that Ganga was drowning her children. These stories highlighted the extreme risk Shantanu was willing to take to secure his engineered heir. Shantanu accepted the loss of a traditional family life. He viewed the sacrifice as the necessary cost for a mythic dynasty. 8 years after the marriage, the 8th son survived, Devavrata. As agreed, Ganga immediately left the king to return to the river, leaving Shantanu to oversee the boy's development. Shantanu curated a sequence of specific intellectual and physical upgrades for his son. He sent Devavrata to the most powerful masters in existence, Vashishta for Dharma, Brihaspati for political science, and the immortal Parashuram for the arts of war. Devavrata was an efficient student. He mastered centuries of Parashuram's combat techniques in a matter of years, exceeding the capacity of a standard human warrior. Parashuram conducted a final stress test on his student. They engaged in a 3-day duel that reportedly shattered the landscape of Kurukshetra. The prince defeated the immortal master. Shantanu's project to create an invincible heir was a success. After the battle, Parashuram requested his fee as a teacher, the Guru Dakshina. He demanded a restrictive vow. Devavrata was forbidden from ever raising a weapon against a woman. Devavrata's sense of honor was as highly engineered as his combat skill. He accepted the vow immediately, binding himself to this restriction for life. This boy would grow up to be Bhishma, the patriarch of the empire. Decades later, on the same field at Kurukshetra, his enemies identified this specific vow as a critical vulnerability. Shantanu's search for perfection backfired. The very process used to create an invincible protector installed the specific flaw that led to his eventual downfall. A single promise carried more weight than any army. This vow was the specific mechanism that dismantled an empire. To see how this promise triggered the end of the world, subscribe and follow the next chapter.